How's it going? Welcome back to Next Thought. In this video, I'm going to share 3 differences between Americans and Chinese. The first thing is, Americans are more financially independent than Chinese, and it is even more obvious for students. As we know, before we get to work, most of us are receiving financial support from our parents. However, the biggest difference between Chinese parents and American parents is the way they support their children. For American parents, they're more likely to support their children in terms of down payment, while for Chinese students, they're more likely to support their children in terms of interest. Let's first talk about Chinese students. For most of Chinese students, they're actually receiving money from their parents each month, and this money will be used to cover their living expenses. In the meantime, they also have a golden credit card, so that credit card is actually bound to their parents' bank account. Therefore, whenever they swipe their credit card, they don't have to pay the bills. Instead, the parents will pay for them. However, in the other hand, for American parents, they're more likely to support their children in early stage with a lot of money. So during my stay in the United States, I've talked with a lot of my American friends, and most of them got a brokerage account which was opened by their parents when they were young. So when they were little, their parents would open this account and deposited a lot of money to buy stocks and to manage them as well. When they grew up, the parents would just leave this account to them and to ask them to manage themselves. In the meantime, those students would collect the dividends, and therefore they can cover their living expenses. Therefore, even though the parents are not supporting them in the longer terms, there somehow benefits from the parents' earlier support. Of course, I'm not saying which is good, which is bad, but there are actually pros and cons in both cases. For Chinese, since they're just swiping their credit cards so hardly, so I believe for most of Chinese millennials nowadays do not have that kind of concerns between your income and your expenses. Therefore, most of them become, in Chinese it is called 月光族, which means for the salary they earn each month, they will just spend them immediately, and they have $0 in deposit. On the other hand, for a lot of Americans, they actually carry a really huge burden for the school fees, since their parents do not pay for the school fees, and the school fees, especially for colleges in the United States, is extremely expensive. Therefore, for those students in college, they will take their student loans, and after their graduation, they will just spend a few years to pay those mortgage, and of course, that becomes a huge burden for most of the students. Alright, before we move to the next point, smash the like button, I really appreciate it. So the second point is, Americans get a much better education on sex. I was born and raised in China, and I studied 12 years in China as well. However, none of my course is related to the topic of sex. On the other hand, sex is not like the words on the textbook. Instead, you have to practice it in real life. However, this kind of practice is just impossible in China, since there are a lot of teachers monitoring you 24/7, and whenever they discover even a small trend that appear is going to have a relationship, they will just interrupt it immediately. For example, they call their parents and or they will just expel those students, so they can do whatever they can to just do this stuff. I'm not saying this is right or wrong, but it's just kind of culture in China. On the other hand, there is also a very lack of sex education on social media. For example, in China, you really can't find a legal website that teaches sex, just like Pornhub. You just can't find it. On the other hand, Americans got this kind of education much better, and I believe it is good for people in the long run. The third point is, Americans usually use Visa, while Chinese just use Alipay. When I was in the United States, of course, as you know, most of the time we just use the Visa or credit card. However, sometimes we do use cashes for tips. While in China, when we go out, we just don't bring wallet. We just have our cell phone, and we got Alipay and WeChat Pay. Yeah, that's a very convenient way of life. Alright, I think this is the end for this video. If you enjoyed it, please smash the like button and subscribe my channel. In the meantime, if you have any thoughts in mind, please leave them in the comments below. Otherwise, I see you in the next video.